All right, you beautiful humans. I am wondering if anyone can tell me why this word aesthetics seems to be trending these days. Maybe this is just an old man YouTube take, but either way, let's just see how this setup works for me. And I know I still owe you a full studio reveal and some behind the scenes of how I film, but I figured I needed to provide a couple of updates because I do have some new additions while we wait on some pieces to complete the space. And yes, I do use this as a workspace and it can get a little busy around here. But after I'm done filming, I do check my footage in the timeline first. I might make some rough cuts, but once that footage is confirmed, I quickly get to cleaning so that I can breathe creatively. This is of course all thanks to IKEA for making kitchen cabinets that work so well in an office environment so that when I'm looking for a tool or 90s Keanu, they still have their place. The 34-inch ultra-wide centerpiece here from ViewSonic has been a great companion to the M1 Mac Mini, and I have reviewed this display and you're more than welcome to check out that video, but my focus in these recent months has been the screen bar halo from BenQ that, of course at first glance, it does seem like a gimmick, and I was right there with you until I started using this device. Because this isn't about illuminating the parts of the screen, but rather illuminating the desk in your immediate workspace without adding an annoying reflection to the screen itself. And this particular setup does have that back illumination if you choose to use it to blend in with the wall that you may be camped out in front of. And we do have some intelligence on board, and these days we'll take all that we can get, but the built-in light sensor auto-adjusts to about 500 lux depending on your surroundings. Now we do have one more thing on the desk here, but let me point out that this is a wireless controller that will communicate to about up to 1 meter distance, and although I was able to use it further away, even if we play by the rules, you've still got some options to move it around on your workspace. And whether you're going for a cooler color temperature or a mix between the two, or you're all in on that warmth because it's time to cozy up on whatever you're working on, it's a pretty simple hover to wake this thing up, and then a touch and turn of the dial. And with the option to have either the front, the back, or both illuminated, the option is baked right in. Although for those that want to have independent intensity and color temperatures of both the front and back lamps, it does seem that we are met with having control over these simultaneously and not separately. However, as you can see, it's no problem to mount it on a curved display with this clip and some very high-tech foam if you find that you need a little extra something to give you that stability on a display like this. And as far as having something that fit the overall look, I'd happen to be looking for a practical light to just have in the space, and not to mention the spread of the light across the desk for those product shots. This did offer an opportunity to have something that's out of the way, but very much a presence. And speaking of presence, this sketch slate is such a gift from two really super cool humans. I tend to prefer editing my photos on the iPad Pro, and although I do have some stands for this device, this handcrafted piece just gives me that angle I'm looking for when I just want to hug my work like it's 2018. There's just something about having handcrafted pieces to add to some of the other elements, and this wood finish that even offers some high-ish tech features does provide another angle of how you look at your work and how you view this piece in your space. So I did mention the iPad stands, and this one from MagFlow is by far at the top of my list to recommend if you're really looking for a way to get the iPad Pro off of your lap and ready to engage in some real enjoyment of those very deep black bezels that we've all come to appreciate. Maybe iPadOS 16 will be different, because I like to think that way. But speaking of aesthetics, and of course there's that word again, the MagFlow embraces universal control in a way that not only is the software providing that integration between the hardware, the magnetic stand also parallels the build of what we've come to understand as an Apple-influenced design. Although the MagFlow does stand on its own and gives us the ability to just snap our iPad on the rotating magnetic slate. When compared to some other stands, there is more surface area along this soft finish, and the magnets do work through this slim armor case from Pitaka. And whether you find yourself using the iPad as your primary tool to get work done, or it's just complementary to your other main devices, the investment is likely going to help you with that transition, depending on how you need to pivot. Not to mention that this is yet another customized piece that both Charlie and Jenny felt might complement the way I want to work. And as far as incorporating a little nostalgia into your space, let's just say that I had no intention of revisiting that typing class I took in middle school on those mechanical keyboards that all looked like the others, but as much as we've all succumbed to some peer pressure from the kids we grew up with, so does the influence of the kids under this roof with their own builds that has me falling fast for this new hobby. With the low-profile aluminum case from KBD fans and the Gatoron yellow switches along with these minimalist-style white and gray keycaps, the feedback does take some getting used to when compared to membrane-style keyboards, but it just takes practice. And of course, the threshold for the sound, of course. And what I've come to learn is that as much as I appreciate wireless keyboards, we like to pretend that this was before the days of Bluetooth. And apparently a wired connection brings us full circle with this coiled finish and aviator connectivity of the cable that is sure to pretty much eliminate any latency, but of course add just one more piece to keep up with on the desk. Which, thankfully, I have the ability to plug it right in here into the base of this AVLT monitor stand. I really want to explore some additional keyboards, and if you have any suggestions on some that you like, feel free to hit me up in the comments section below and I might just bring them here on the channel. I know many of you probably hear about Grove-made products, but there's just something about these handmade pieces such as the MagSafe iPhone stand or the headphone stand that I park my DT770 Pros on. The materials in these pieces are both complementary and somewhat of a contrast to the other elements on the desk. This really does come down to not just the function of the space, but how it actually makes me feel when I'm in it. And I spend a lot of time here. So this is why it's very important for me to not only carefully curate each piece, but to also be open to an ongoing ebb and flow of new pieces that I'm sure I'll update you on at another time. I realize that many of this would be considered an investment, and this has taken me years to build out. But I also ask myself first about whether I really need it, and how well will it really serve me. And speaking of service, I really can't thank you enough for your time here. I'll see you down there in the comments, and you keep rocking those faces until we meet again.